Look, I need to tell someone this story because I'm going insane keeping it to myself. And honestly, I'm tired of everyone acting like they know what happened when they only heard Tucker's side. Yeah, I messed up, but there's way more to this than what people think. I'm Ashley, I'm 25, and 3 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was with Tucker for 2 years. He's 24, works in some technical position that I never really understood, even when he tried explaining it. Super reliable guy, the type who remembers every anniversary and always asks about your day in that genuine way that should make you feel loved, but somehow just made me feel suffocated. Don't get me wrong, Tucker was great on paper. My friends constantly told me how lucky I was, my mom adored him, even my coworkers would make comments about what a catch he was. But here's what nobody understood. Being with someone that predictable felt like dying slowly. Every Friday was date night. Every Saturday we'd run errands together. Every Sunday we'd meal prep and do laundry. It was like being married to my best friend's dad. I worked in client relations downtown, nothing spectacular, but it paid my half of everything. Tucker had some position dealing with systems or data management. Honestly, even after 2 years, I couldn't explain what he did because it sounded mind-numbing whenever he tried to tell me about it. Our biggest excitement was trying new restaurants or watching whatever show everyone was talking about. We had fallen into this routine that felt more like roommates who occasionally had sex than an actual relationship. When I decided to take that vacation to the coast, I was desperate to remember who I was outside of being Tucker's girlfriend. I'd been feeling restless for months, like I was watching my life happen to someone else. Tucker was incredibly supportive about the trip, which somehow made me feel worse. He drove me to the airport, made sure I had everything, told me to have the time of my life and not worry about anything back home. "You deserve this break," he said, kissing me goodbye. "I'll miss you like crazy, but I want you to enjoy every second." I should have melted at how sweet he was being. Instead, I felt guilty for not being more excited about coming back to him. My flight got delayed, and I was sitting at the gate feeling sorry for myself when this guy took the seat next to me. Dante. Late 20s, dark hair, dressed like he had money but not in a flashy way. When he smiled, apologizing for bumping my bag, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, that electric attraction to a complete stranger that makes your stomach flip. We started talking, and it was effortless in a way conversations with Tucker hadn't been in forever. Dante was heading to the same city for business, real estate development that actually sounded interesting and dynamic. He was sharp, funny, made observations about people around us that had me laughing harder than I had in weeks. Not Tucker's gentle dad jokes, but clever, edgy humor that made me feel sophisticated. When he suggested grabbing drinks after we landed, I said yes without thinking. I told myself it was just being friendly, making the most of my solo vacation, but I knew I was attracted to him, and I knew I was choosing not to mention Tucker. For the first time in months, I felt interesting again, instead of just comfortable. The drinks turned into dinner at this incredible place he knew, then to a private beach spot that regular tourists never found. By the time I was supposed to call Tucker that night, I was having too much fun. I was flirting, laughing, remembering what it felt like to be desired by someone who didn't already know all my stories and annoying habits. I texted Tucker the next morning, instead of calling, kept it vague, said I was exhausted from traveling and had crashed early. That first lie felt so small at the time, just avoiding having to edit out all the exciting parts of my evening when talking to him. Dante had rented this beach house, and he invited me to see it. I told myself I was just being adventurous, exploring with someone who actually knew the area. The house was stunning. Right on the water, floor-to-ceiling windows, everything Tucker and I could never afford, even if we saved for years. Dante opened wine, and we sat on the deck, talking about life, dreams, possibilities. He told me about his business ventures, his plans to expand into different markets. He had this way of talking about the future like it was full of potential, instead of just more routine. When he asked about me, I found myself sharing dreams I'd forgotten I had. Traveling, maybe starting my own business, seeing more of the world than just the same city I'd lived in forever. When he kissed me, I should have stopped it. I knew I should have. But it felt like watching someone else's life. Someone more exciting than the version of me going through the motions with Tucker. Someone who deserved passion instead of just stability. I stayed the night. Waking up in his bed looking out at the ocean, I felt more alive than I had in months. For the first time in forever, I had no idea what would happen next, and instead of scaring me, it thrilled me. By day 3, I was barely thinking about Tucker, except when he called. Each conversation felt like an interruption to my real life. He'd ask about my day, and I'd edit out everything that mattered. Just relaxing on the beach, I'd say, when really Dante and I had spent the morning in bed and the afternoon exploring some gallery he'd discovered. The worst part was how trusting Tucker was. How excited he sounded when I told him I was really enjoying the solo experience. His faith in me was absolute, and instead of guilt, it made me feel powerful. I could tell him anything, and he'd believe me completely. Meanwhile, Dante and I fell into this domestic routine that felt both thrilling and natural. He'd work during the day while I explored, and evenings we'd cook together and talk for hours. The conversation never got boring. He'd tell me about places he'd traveled, deals he was working on, ideas for the future. I felt sophisticated, worldly, like someone worth impressing. And the chemistry was incredible. Everything with Tucker had become so predictable. Same timing, same positions, same gentle consideration that felt more like politeness than passion. With Dante, I never knew what to expect. He was confident, demanding, spontaneous. I felt desirable in a way I'd forgotten was possible. When my original return flight approached, I couldn't bear going back to my old life. Back to Tucker's gentle questions about my day, back to our scheduled routines, back to feeling like I was sleepwalking through my own existence. So I called Tucker and told him I was extending my vacation another week. He sounded disappointed but tried to hide it. "Whatever makes you happy, Ash," he said, and even his disappointment was so understanding. "I miss you, but I want you to get everything you need from this trip." I almost confessed everything right then. The guilt hit me hard, and for a second I considered telling him the truth. But then, Dante walked into the room, and just seeing him made my heart race in a way it never did with Tucker anymore. "I love you too," I lied and hung up before he could say anything else. That second week was like living in a different reality. Dante took time off work to spend with me, and we did everything. Private sailing, exclusive restaurants, events that regular tourists never heard about. He introduced me to his successful friends who treated me like I belonged in their world. I felt like the main character in my own life for the first time in years. We talked about everything: philosophy, travel, business, life goals. He listened in a way that made me feel heard and understood. Tucker always listened too, but differently. Tucker listened like a boyfriend who already knew everything about me. Dante listened like someone discovering me, like every conversation revealed something new and interesting. I was careful about social media, posting beach pictures, but cropping Dante out. I wasn't completely reckless, but maintaining the lie with Tucker was exhausting. His calls felt like interruptions. When he'd tell me how much he missed me and couldn't wait for me to come home, I'd feel claustrophobic instead of loved. Tucker was being more attentive than ever. Sweet texts throughout the day, flowers delivered to my empty apartment, planning things for when I got back. My absence was reminding him to appreciate me, but all it did was make me realize how much I'd outgrown what we had. By the end of the second week, Dante was talking about me staying longer, not permanently, but indefinitely. He had industry connections, could help me find work if I wanted a change. The idea was intoxicating. A whole new life away from the routine that had been suffocating me. "You seem different here," he told me one night walking along the beach. "More yourself, more alive." He was right. So when I called the airline to extend again, I felt like I was finally taking control of my life. But extending a second time required a bigger lie. I couldn't just tell Tucker I was having too much fun. He'd ask questions. So I invented a story about meeting travelers road tripping up the coast, deciding to join them for a few extra days. Tucker bought it completely. "That sounds amazing," he said, trying to sound excited instead of hurt. "I'm so glad you're having experiences like this." His absolute trust should have made me feel terrible. Instead, it made me feel like I was getting away with something, living this double life where I could have excitement while keeping my safety net intact. I started imagining staying with Dante permanently. He was successful, ambitious, going places. He made me feel like I could be successful too, like I could matter instead of just going through the motions of an ordinary life. The first crack appeared when I called work to extend my vacation days. My supervisor was fine with it, but when Jess answered, she sounded weird. "Ashley, are you sure everything's okay out there? You sound different. And Tucker came by yesterday asking if we'd heard from you. He seemed worried." I laughed it off, but something in her tone bothered me. When I mentioned it to Dante, he just shrugged. "People get uncomfortable when someone breaks their expected patterns," he said. "It threatens their choices to see someone actually go after what they want." That made sense. Of course, people would be jealous that I was having adventures while they were stuck in boring routines. 3 weeks in, reality started creeping into my fantasy. My extended time off was unpaid, and my savings were dangerously low. While Dante was generous, I wasn't comfortable letting him pay for everything. It made the power dynamic feel weird. More concerning was the shift in Dante himself. The man who'd been so attentive was suddenly taking work calls during dinners and spending longer hours at the office. When I'd suggest activities, his responses were getting shorter, more distracted. One morning, I caught him scrolling through Instagram, looking at pictures of some blonde woman, photos that were clearly recent and intimate. Beach shots, dinner photos, relationship pictures. "Who's that?" I asked casually. He clicked off quickly. "Just someone I used to know." But his tone was different. Guarded. That's when it hit me. I might not be the only woman in his life. The thought made me sick, but also hypocritical. What right did I have to be jealous when I was technically still with Tucker? When I finally asked him directly what was going on, his answer shattered my fantasy. "Ashley, this has been incredible, but we both knew it was temporary, right?" He said it so casually. "You have a life back home, a boyfriend. I'm not looking for anything permanent right now." The way he said "right now" made it clear he wasn't talking about timing. He was talking about me. I wasn't permanent material. I was just a fun distraction. But I started, then stopped. What had I thought? That 3 weeks of great sex meant we had a future? "You thought what?" he asked, and there was something almost pitying in his voice. Instead of cutting my losses and booking a flight home, I made the stupidest decision of my life. I decided to fight for him. I convinced myself he was just scared of intimacy, that if I chose him over Tucker, he'd realize what we had was special. So I called Tucker and broke up with him over the phone. Except I didn't really break up with him. I was too cowardly for that. I told him I needed more time to figure myself out and thought we should take a break. Tucker was devastated. I could hear the confusion, the hurt, the desperation. "Ashley, what are you talking about? Is this about the vacation? We can work through whatever this is." For a moment, listening to him beg me not to throw away what we had, I almost took it back. Tucker was good. He loved me, supported me, would have done anything for me. But then I looked at Dante making coffee, and I convinced myself I was being brave, choosing passion over safety. "I just need space to think," I told Tucker, hating how my voice shook. "This isn't about you. You're amazing. I just need to figure some things out." "How long?" he asked quietly. I couldn't answer because I didn't know. "I'll call you soon," I lied. Dante's reaction wasn't what I'd expected. Instead of being thrilled, he looked annoyed. "You broke up with your boyfriend?" he asked. "I took a break," I corrected. "I realized I can't keep living a lie. What we have is real." Dante ran his hands through his hair, looking uncomfortable. "Ashley, I never asked you to break up with anyone for me. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you've known for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The way he said it made it sound like nothing. Over the next few days, Dante's work demands mysteriously increased. He was traveling more, working late, and when he was around, he seemed distant. I kept trying to recreate the magic of those first 2 weeks, but it was like forcing something that had already died. The end came exactly 1 week after I'd broken up with Tucker. Dante sat me down and delivered the final blow with devastating casualness. "My ex-girlfriend is moving back to town," he said. "We've been talking, and we're going to try to work things out." The blonde from Instagram. Of course, she's been living out of state for work, but she got transferred back, and we both realize we made a mistake ending things. We have history together, shared investments, a whole life we built. Everything he was describing was everything I'd just thrown away with Tucker. What about us? I asked. We had something special, Ashley, but it was always temporary. You knew that. He squeezed my hand patronizingly. You'll figure things out with Tucker. He sounds like a good guy who really loves you. Just like that, my great love affair was over. I was being dismissed like a pleasant vacation memory. I booked a flight for the next day, spent my last night crying in a hotel room near the airport, wondering how I'd destroyed my entire life in less than a month. When I tried calling Tucker from the airport, his number went straight to voicemail. When I tried texting, I discovered he'd blocked me completely. Panicking, I called Jess to get Tucker's work number. That's when I learned the truth that shattered what was left of my world. Ashley, where the hell have you been? Jess said. Tucker's been going crazy trying to figure out what happened to you. What do you mean? I told him I needed space. He came to the office looking for you 3 days ago. Said you'd called about taking a break, but when he went to your apartment to try talking in person, your neighbor told him you'd been gone for weeks. He thought something terrible happened. The room spun. He went to my apartment? Ashley, he knows you've been lying about where you are. He saw your flight confirmations on his laptop, the same laptop you used to book your trip. He's known for over a week that you've been back in town while telling him you were on some road trip. I felt like I was going to throw up. Tucker had known I was lying and had been waiting for me to tell the truth. Instead, I'd broken his heart with more lies. He kept hoping you'd come clean, Jess continued coldly. He made excuses for you, said maybe you were going through something. But when you called and broke up with him instead of being honest, Ashley, what the hell did you do? Where is he now? I asked weakly. I don't know, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. What you did to him was cruel. She hung up, and I was alone with the wreckage of my life. I took a cab to my apartment, hoping Tucker might be there waiting. But the place was empty, exactly as I'd left it. The flowers he'd sent during my first week away were dead in their vase, brown reminders of how things used to be. I tried everything to reach him, went to his building, but the doorman wouldn't let me up. Waited outside his office, but security escorted me away. Tried reaching his friends and family, but they all gave me the same cold treatment. He didn't want to see me, didn't want anything to do with me. It took 3 weeks to accept that Tucker was really gone. 3 weeks of calling numbers that went to voicemail, sending messages that were never read, showing up places only to find he'd already left. He'd cut me out of his life so completely, it was like our 2 years together never happened. Meanwhile, my life was falling apart in other ways. I'd burned through all my vacation days, and then some. My supervisor wrote me up for unexcused absences and put me on probation. My coworkers treated me differently. Word had gotten around about what I'd done to Tucker, and most thought I was terrible. My friends weren't much better. Tucker had always been well-liked, and when the truth came out, most people sided with him. I found myself uninvited from gatherings, left out of group chats, treated like I had some contagious moral disease. My family kept asking what happened to that nice young man, and I didn't know how to explain without admitting what I'd done. The worst part was the regret. Not just about losing Tucker, but about how completely I'd misjudged everything. I'd convinced myself that what I had with Dante was real love, that Tucker and I were just settling. But looking back, I could see how wrong I'd been. Tucker had loved me genuinely, consistently, faithfully. He'd supported my dreams, put up with my moods, made me feel secure and valued every day. What I'd mistaken for boring predictability had actually been the kind of stable, mature love most people spend their lives looking for. Dante had never loved me at all. I'd been a convenient distraction while his real girlfriend was out of town. All those deep conversations, all that passion, none of it had meant anything to him. But even knowing all that, even seeing how badly I'd screwed up, I can't bring myself to take full responsibility. Because Tucker and I had been in a rut. We had gotten comfortable and predictable. I had felt like I was missing something, like there had to be more to life than what we had. Maybe I handled it wrong, but my feelings weren't invalid. Maybe I made terrible choices, but I made them trying to find something real instead of settling for safe and easy. Now I'm alone on Saturday nights, wondering if I'll ever find someone who can give me both passion and stability. Tucker had been stability without excitement. Dante had been excitement without substance. Maybe what I need is someone who can be both, but maybe people like that don't exist outside of movies. I still think about Tucker sometimes, wonder what he's doing, if he's happy. I heard he's dating again, though nobody will tell me specifics. Part of me hopes he's found someone who appreciates what an amazing person he is. Part of me hopes he's miserable without me. I'm not proud of that second part, but it's honest. As for Dante, I unfollowed him because seeing pictures of him with his girlfriend made me feel pathetic. But sometimes I still look him up, scroll through their happy photos, try to figure out what she has that I don't. I know I should feel guilty about what I did to Tucker. And I do feel bad about hurting him. He didn't deserve that, but I can't regret trying to find something better, even if it blew up in my face. Maybe that makes me terrible. Maybe I am selfish and immature like people say. But at least I know what real passion feels like now. Even if it was temporary, at least I took a chance instead of accepting that comfortable was all I deserved. Some people say I got what I deserved, that karma came for me. But I don't see it that way. I see it as the price of trying to have it all instead of settling. Most people are too scared to take risks like that, too comfortable in their safe relationships to reach for something extraordinary. I'm not saying I'd do it all again the same way, but I'm also not saying I'd choose differently. Because for 3 weeks, I felt more alive than I had in years. For 3 weeks, I was the main character in an epic love story instead of just another person going through the motions. That has to count for something, right?